Welcome back to If My People Bible reading. Uh, Thank you for your patience. Um, we pray that you continue your patience all the way through, reading the Bible from the very beginning to the very end, listening to our comments, rightfully dividing the word, checking us out, and then get critical because you can't judge. More churches, the Christian church started off as one back when they were called the people of the way. They weren't called Christians. They were called uh, the way, and their symbols they used was not a cross of Jesus. It was a fish, sign of the fish. That was Yeshua saying, "You are to be a fisherman of men," and that's where all that came from. So. Um, uh, Try not to get caught up on all the traditions that you've heard and just be so critical of what I've got to say. Please wait till you get to the end and then tear me a new one because I will certainly deserve it if uh, if you feel so sure that any of our comments um, have led you away from the Lord, we want to lead you to the Adonai, to the Father, to Abba the Father, through His Son. That's what it's all about. And so we'll get to chapter 23, the book of Job, and we read. Then Job replied, his time to respond. And once again, as a reminder, it's not till chapter 40 that Yahweh speaks. And notice that it's chapter 40, 40 being time of testing. Um, Verse 2, even today my complaint is bitter. His hand is heavy in spite of my groaning. If only I knew where to find him. If only I could go to his dwelling. Comment, we all will be there one day, and every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess one thing or the other. You go to the Father to live forever, or you don't. There is no lukewarmness. There's no in between. There's no way to buy your way in or out. Verse 4, I would state my case before him and fill my mouth with arguments. Uh, little understanding here for comment. You don't have to state your case. You've got the Son, and the Son speaks for you because you are a bride of the Son, and He's going to defend His bride no matter what to His Father. Okay, there's a promise. There's an incredible promise. I would find out what He would answer me and consider what He would say. Would He oppose me with great power? No, He would not press charges against me. There an upright man could represent his case before him, and I would be delivered forever from my judge. Um, but if I go to the east, he's not there. If I go to the west, I did not find him. When he is at the work in the north, key word, pay attention to that word about something coming from the north. Uh, Back to verse 9. I did not see him. When he turns to the south, I catch no glimpse of him, but he knows the way that I take. When he has tested me, I will come forth as gold. Notice it's not silver. My feet have closely followed his steps. I have kept his way without turning aside. I have not departed from the command of his lips. Another word for commands of his lips is Torah. I have treasured the words of his mouth more than my daily bread. But he stands alone, and who can oppose him? He does whatever he pleases. He carries out his decree against me, and many such plans he still has in store. Elohim has made. Well, that is why I'm terrified before him. When I think of this, I fear him. Elohim has made my heart faint. The Almighty has terrified me. Now, the English version of fear is fear. The Hebrew version of fears, there's multiple versions. In this one, it means respect. Respect. Not cowering fear because God's going to knock the fire out of you and burn you to death. That's not what the fear of the Lord means. It means incredible respect. And if it looks like fear, falls down to love and respect. Yet I am not silenced by the darkness, by the thick darkness that covers my face. Chapter 24. Why does the Almighty not set times for judgment? Why must those who know Him look in vain for such days? Because we must walk in our ways with the Father, trusting in Him, even though He is not present. He is with us. That's why. Verse 2, men move boundary stones. They pasture flocks they have stolen. Nothing new today. They drive away from the orphans. donkey and take the widow's ox. In pledge, they thrust the needy from the path and force all the poor of the land into hiding. Like wild donkeys in the desert, the poor go about their labor of foraging food. The wasteland provides food for their children. They gather fodder in the fields and glean in the vineyards of the wicked. Lacking clothes, they spend the night naked. They have nothing to cover themselves in the cold. They are drenched by mountain rains and hug the rocks for lack of shelter. The fatherless child is snatched from the breast. The infant of the poor is seized for a debt. Lacking clothes, they go about naked. They carry their sheaves but still go hungry. They crush olives among the terraces. They tread the winepresses. They suffer first. The groans of the dying rise in the city, and the souls of the wounded cry out for help, but Elohim charges no one of wrongdoing. As you read this Bible, pay attention to those who live in the city versus who live out in the land. Pay attention to that because is it ever a good thing to live uh, house upon house upon house, all crowded into the city? Find out if it ever is a good thing to do. No. There are those, verse 13, there are those who rebel against the light, who do not know its ways or stay in its paths. When daylight's gone, the murderer rises up and kills the poor and the needy, and in the night he steals forth like a thief. The eye of the adulterer watches for dusk. He thinks, no eye will see him, and he keeps his face concealed. And in the dark, men break into houses, but by day they shut themselves in. They want nothing to do with the light. For all of them, deep darkness is their mourning. They make friends with terrors of darkness. Yet they are the foam on the surface of the water. Their portion of the land is cursed, so that no one goes to the vineyards. As heat and drought snatch away the melted snow, so the grave snatches away those who have sinned. The womb forgets them, the worm feasts on them. Evil men are no longer remembered, but are broken like a tree. They prey on the barren and childless woman, and the widow show no kindness. And to the widow show no kindness. But Elohim drags them away, the mighty by his own power. Though they have become established, they have no assurance of life. He may let them rest in a feeling of security, but his eyes are on their ways. For a little while they are exalted, and then they are gone. They are brought low and gathered up as all others. They are cut off like heads of grain. Um, in the last days, who gets gathered from the fields and burnt first? The the not the wheat, but the chaff, the tares, the false, the evil. They're gathered up. The good wheat, the good grain is not gathered up first and flies to the air like a rapture. That's not how it happens. So you have to trust in the Lord to the very last breath that you have, and watch what happens. And remember this once again: it's the soul. It's the soul that He promises to save. So the millions who have died in wars and famine and pestilence at the sword and having their heads cut off and shot and burned and thrown off cliffs and squished and run over with wheels, who are believers, um, don't make it think you're any different, that you're going to be saved. Every one of you, to a certain degree, for the millennial life that you're going to live here, and you're going to be spared. All of you, all the sheep, all the shepherds everywhere are going to be saved in these by super miraculous things. That's not what the word says. For those who he knows are going to go through the millennium, who he knows he's going to protect. And is he going to lose any of them? No. He says he's not going to lose one of his shepherds or one of his sheep that is going through the millennium, because he promised them this as a reward for faithfulness and hearing and obeying the word. Now, for the millions of us later on who live forever in heaven, will be everybody brought up. Everybody, before we go to the final heaven, to the white throne judgment. You're going left, you're going right. If you go right, you go into the kingdom. If you go left, you're going to be forever separated from the Father. Read that. That way, if I'm wrong about what I say, and you are raptured up and fly through the air and live supernaturally, fantastic. Fantastic. But if you're wrong and you put all your faith in your children's faith in that, and you teach them all this stuff, and it does not happen, bad things are going to happen. And people are going to fall away from the faith. Understand that. They're going to fall away from the faith. If I'm right and you prepare for the very worst thing that could happen, losing your life, losing your family life, and witnessing all this. Witnessing it, for goodness sakes, that's horrible. Has it happened for thousands of years? Yes. And if it does happen again, you'll be prepared and keep your faith to the end. That's really important. Preparation is what law enforcement. That's what I'm all about. So that's justice, because the father will take care of his own. Let's finish up with 23, 24, and 25, and then go to chapter 25. He may let them rest in a feeling of security, but his eyes are on their ways. For a little while they are exalted, and then they're gone. They are brought low and gathered up. Like all the others, they are cut off like heads of grain. If this is not so, who can prove me false and reduce my words to nothing? Chapter 25. Then Bildad of the Shuhite replied, Dominion and all belong to Elohim. He establishes order in the heights of heaven. Can his forces be numbered? Upon whom does his light not rise? How then can man be righteous before him? How can one be born of woman be pure? Even if the moon is not bright and the stars are not pure in his eyes, how much less man who is but a maggot? You ever been called a maggot? It's all kinds of stuff in the Bible people just gloss over and don't see. Who is only a worm? Chapter 26. Bildad didn't have much time to say something. Job replied. Where are we at? 11:42 minutes. We're doing okay. Verse 2. Chapter 26. How have you helped the powerless? How have you helped the powerless? It's not a question. How you have saved his arm that is feeble? It's not a question. What advice you have offered to one without wisdom, and what great insight have you displayed? Who has not helped you utter these words, and whose spirit spoke among your mouth? The dead are in deep anguish, those beneath the waters and all that live them. Death is naked before Elohim, destruction lies uncovered. He spreads out the northern skies over empty space. He suspends the earth over nothing. He wraps up the waters in his clouds, yet the clouds do not burst upon it in all the weight. He covers his face to the full moon, spreading the clouds over it. He marks out the horizon on the face of the waters to a boundary between light and darkness. The pillars of heaven quake aghast at his rebuke. And by his power he churned the sea. By his wisdom he cut Rahab to pieces. Excuse me, again the mention of Rahab. By his breath the skies become fair. His hand pierced the gliding serpent. And these are on the outer fringes of his work. How faint the whisper we hear him, who he can understand the thunder of his power. Chapter 27. And Job continued his discourse. As surely as El lives, who has denied me justice? The Almighty, who has made me taste bitterness of soul. As long as I have life within me, the breath of Elohim in my nostrils, my lips will not speak wickedness, my tongue will not utter no deceit. I will never admit you are in the right till I die. I will not deny my integrity. I will remain my righteousness and never let go of it. My conscience will not reproach me as long as I live. May my enemies be like the wicked, my adversaries like the unjust. For what hope has the wicked man when he's cut off? When Elohim takes away his life, does Elohim listen to his cry when distress comes upon him? Will he find delight? Will he find delight in the Almighty? Will he call upon Elohim at all times? I will teach you about the power of Elohim, the ways of Almighty I will not conceal. You have seen this yourselves. Why then this meaningless talk? Here is the fate of Elohim, allots to the wicked, the heritage of ruthless man received from the Almighty. However, his children, with their fate is the sword, his offspring will never have enough to eat. The plague will bury those who survive him, and the widows will not weep for him. Though he heaps up silver like dust and clothes like piles of clay, what he lays to the righteousness will wear, and the innocent will divide his silver. The house he builds is like a moth's cocoon, like a hut made by a watchman. He lies down wealthy, but will do so no more. When he opens his eyes, it's all gone. Terrors overtake him like a flood. A tempest snatches away him in the night. The east wind carries him off, and he's gone. It sweeps him out of his place. It hurls him against with all mercy, and he flees headlong from its power. It clasps its hands in derision and whistles him out of his place. We'll stop there and begin chapter 28 of Job next. Shalom.